Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see the construction steps for our robot Seesaw as a part of robotic construction level 1. We are going to build this robot looking at sketch. So what are our objectives? Objectives are learn to make a robot from just a sketch. That is one step closer to designing our own robot. The next objective, revise the positioning of the motor. We have learned how to position the motor. We are going to revise that in this video while making this robot. And the last objective is to revise the construction steps of oscillatory movement. After you watch the sketch, pause the video, try to make your own robot. Do not operate it. Once you are finished with making a robot, start the video again, watch the construction steps, and then you may operate the robot. So here is the sketch. Now here we see a picture. So this is a medium gear and this is a big gear. We see earth point here, and earth point is joining this pendulum rod using push-pull rod. Now we also have a pendulum point here. The pendulum point is at the center because seesaw should move up and down on both sides by equal distance. This is the base of our robot and this is the mast on which we are attaching our motor and gears and things. So I hope you have understood the sketch, and now it's time to pause the video and make seesaw just looking at this sketch. Please note that this is an oscillatory movement, so we have push-pull rod, earth point, sun point, pendulum rod and pendulum point. We know the joints are going to be loose while the pendulum rod and the earth point are connected to the base very tightly. Make the robot. Once you make the robot, come back and start the video again and watch the construction steps. This is step 1. For the base, we use C plate because it is stable. And on the C plate for a mast, we have used the L plate. So we have C plate, L plate, and they are joined using 2 nuts and bolts here. Then what we are doing is we are attaching the motor with the motor shaft. You can see the motor shaft is coming out from this middle vertical slit here, and the screws, motor screws are attached, one in the middle vertical slit while the second one is a horizontal slit. Then we have attached one 1.5-inch bolt and tightened it up. This is our pendulum point, and we have inserted 2 spacers to make space. We have also put one shaft lock on the motor shaft to create space so that our gear is not going to get obstructed because of these motor screws. Then we have attached a flat rotator here. This flat rotator is attached to make a hole so that we can hold this axle. And if you see, the flat rotator is in a slanted position. So the bolt is attached at the bottom here and the hole is somewhere here. Now let's understand motor positioning. We want our gear which has the earth point to be at the top. So we take the gear which we want. In this case, we want the big gear. So we place it and its center at the top. Then we decide which gear we want to attach on the motor. And we have decided that it should be the medium gear. So we connect the medium gear in such a way that they mesh each other. And then we see where the center of the gear aligns. And we see it aligns somewhere here. And that's how we decide this is our motor position. By having the gear which drives the assembly and the gear which is put on the motor side by side, we know where the motor position will come. Through this hole which is created by the flat rotator, we have inserted small axle and we have attached shaft locks on both ends of the L plate so that the axle is straight. It is not wobbling. Let's go to next step. In step 2, we are creating our gear B, which we will be putting on the axle in our last step. On that gear, we are creating the earth point. So this is our earth point. And we know earth point is tightened to the base. In this case, that is a gear firmly. And we have put one spacer and one hub to create some space, because we are going to put our push-pull rod on this. And the push-pull rod should not touch our our sun point. And that's the reason we have put a spacer and a shaft lock here. We are calling this assembly as assembly A. Let's go to the next step. In the next step, now we have mounted our assembly A, that is our gear, which we created in last step, on to the axle which we had created in first step. And then we have secured it with a shaft lock. We have put one medium gear onto the motor shaft and again secured it with a shaft lock. Let's go to the next step. Now we are creating the push-pull rod. The push-pull rod uses one single bar. On both ends we are attaching one flat rotator each, and that flat rotator is used to create hole, so it is attached using only single nut and bolt. So here we can see single nut and bolt is attached so that we get a hole on the other side of the flat rotator. The flat rotators are attached, one to the rear of this single bar, one to the front of the single bar. And please look at the direction of the bolts. In this hole which we created, we have attached one more 1-inch bolt. This bolt is going to be connected to the pendulum rod. This bolt is attached tightly, and we have put one shaft lock to create some space. This end will be attached onto the earth point. This we are calling as assembly B. Let's go to the next step. Now this is our pendulum rod, or this is the seat for our seesaw. A pendulum rod needs a point where it will get attached to the pendulum point, and that's the point here we are creating using one flat rotator. Flat rotator is inside, we are attaching it with one nut and bolt, so the second circular hole we get will be mounted onto the pendulum point we created in step 1. These two here are attached here, L connectors, using single nut and bolt as seats on the seesaw. And this is our assembly C. Let's go to the next step. So this is our assembly B, which we have connected using a nut to our earth point. This is loosely coupled because it's a joint. Okay, and this is our assembly C, which we have connected to the pendulum point using one nut, again loosely coupled because those are joints. And now our assembly B and assembly C are joined here using another nut from inside the C plate, again loosely coupled because that's also joint. So these three are joints here. Assembly C, assembly B are mounted on the assemblies which we created in our step number 1 to 3. And that completes our seesaw. Now you can connect the wire and you can operate it. So what did we learn? We learned to make a robot from just a sketch. We looked at sketch, we decided what components we need. For example, we know for the base we need C plate, for a mast we need L plate. So we used our understanding of our Curio Spark Kit parts and used appropriate parts looking at the sketch. We also revised positioning of the motor, where to position the motor based on where we want our assembly and what type of gears we are going to use. And we also revised construction steps of oscillatory movement. We saw 1, sun point, 2, earth point, 3, pendulum point, plus joining them we have push-pull rod and pendulum rod. So these 5 important things of oscillatory movement we have practiced once again. I hope you enjoyed making this robot. In case you have any comments to make, you can make those comments in the comment section below.